Good morning, gentlemen. Today I am coming to you from the Deanship of the Common Year at Majma University. We are doing the English Second Language course, the online version. I am your teacher, Dale Warren. The language skill that we are covering is speaking, and today we are doing Unit 1 of Level 3 in this video. The textbook that we are using is Q Skills for Success, Book 3, Listening and Speaking. Okay, if you've got the textbook in front of you, it should read on the front cover, Q Skills for Success. In the top right-hand corner, there will be the number 3. It should say Listening and Speaking, not the reading and writing book. It has to be the listening and speaking book for my lesson. And it will be a green color. If you look at this little picture in the top left-hand corner, you should have a book cover with that green picture on it. Okay, if you don't have the book with you, please pause the video now and go and fetch the book. And as soon as you have fetched the book, which we will all need, then I want you to unpause the video. Okay, I take it you've all fetched the book and that you have unpaused the video. Before we go any further, we're starting with Level 3 with this video. So I need to explain one or two things. If you find I am going too fast, then just pause the video, and if you need to listen again to something, move it back a few minutes and listen again until you have caught up or you understand. I also need you to have with you, for all the lessons, pen and paper, because sometimes I need you to write things in the textbook, and other times I need you to do one or two practice exercises on paper. So please, all of you, make sure that you have pen and paper when we are doing these videos, as well as your textbooks. And if you don't have a pen and paper with you at the moment, please pause the video right now and go and get yourself a pen and some paper. Okay. All right. I take it you now all have your textbooks and you all have pen and paper. What we are covering today are the verb to do, the verb to be, and the verb to have, which are all on page 18 of the textbook. We are covering on page 20 how to contract auxiliary verbs. Contracting means turning the long form into the short form. So, that is what we mean when we say contract. We take a long form and we turn it into a short form. So instead of saying Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that is the long form, I can just say KSA, and that is the short form. Contracting means changing a long form into a short form. All right. The homework today is going to be from page 20 and it will be exercise A, and it will be about making questions with auxiliary verbs. But don't worry about that now. We will cover it at the end of the lesson. Okay. We are starting on page 18. So I need you all to go to your textbooks and open at page 18. And the part of your textbook that you should be looking at is this part here, which says auxiliary verbs. Okay, let us discuss auxiliary verbs for a minute or two. Firstly, I want you all to repeat this word after me. Auxiliary. Auxiliary. All right. You need to know how the word is pronounced, and you do need to practice pronouncing it. An auxiliary verb is simply a helping verb. So, auxiliary is a long and complicated word, but all it really means is that other simpler word, helping. An auxiliary verb is a helping verb. The auxiliary verb helps the main verb in the sentence. The auxiliary verb is in a sentence to help the main verb. All right. Now, in sentences which have a main verb and an auxiliary verb, the auxiliary verb will come earlier in the sentence. So it will come before the main verb. We will go through that again, but the auxiliary verb comes first and the main verb comes second. Okay. That will help you understand which verbs are auxiliaries. You know they are auxiliary because they are coming first. And which verbs are main verbs? You know they are main verbs because they come second. Okay. We are covering 3 auxiliary verbs today. And the first one we are covering is the verb to do. And in the simple present tense of that verb, it appears in these forms. I do, you do, we do, and they do. But he does, she does, it does. So in the present tense, the verb to do only has 2 forms. It has the form do and the form does. If you remember, he, she, or it does, but all the other subjects are, you, we, they, all take the form do. Now, the simple past tense of the auxiliary verb to do is much simpler. It only has 1 form, and that is did. I did, you did, he did, we did, they did. Very simple. In the past tense, there is only 1 form, and that form is did. Now, when we use do, does, or did as the auxiliary verb, the main verb goes into the base form. Please remember that. The main verb will always be in the base form if we are using the auxiliary verbs do, does, or did in front of it. So, let's have a look at how you make such sentences. If we look at the first sentence, I do like chocolate. We have the subject I, we have the auxiliary verb, we have the main verb in the base form. So that means it can't be likes, it can't be liked. It has to just be like. I do like chocolate. Do is the auxiliary verb, like is the main verb. You do love fast cars. Do is the auxiliary verb, love is the main verb. Ahmed does enjoy playing golf. Now, if we did not have that auxiliary, we would say Ahmed enjoys playing golf. But once we have the auxiliary, Ahmed does enjoy playing golf, that S falls away. So we have the main verb in its base form. And the base form here is enjoy. Remember, it has to be the main verb, must be in the base form. If it is following an auxiliary verb, do, does, or did. I can say the Yemenis do fight well. We do make pastries at this shop. Now, if I said Sharifa does make pastries at the shop, that is correct. If I didn't have an auxiliary, I would say Sharifa makes pastries at this shop. And there would be that little letter S. But as soon as we put in an auxiliary, that letter S disappears from there and it appears here. And we put an E in this particular case. So, instead of makes, it has to be make. It has to be the base form. So, very easy. I do like chocolate. You do love fast cars. Ahmed does enjoy playing golf. Now, if we have to change the sentence from the positive to the negative, all we do is we change do to don't or does to doesn't. Okay, so let me do the first examples. I have a positive statement. I do like chocolate. I want to make it negative. I say, I don't like chocolate. I have a positive statement. You do love fast cars. I make it negative. You don't love fast cars. Ahmed does enjoy playing golf. To make it negative, all I do is add an NT. Ahmed doesn't enjoy playing golf. So it has gone from positive to negative. Now, on your piece of paper, I want you to look at these last two sentences. They are both positive. I want you to change the sentence from positive to negative. So pause the video and I want you to On your piece of paper, remember I told you I want you to have a pen and a piece of paper. Write down these two sentences. Number 1, number 2. Right, let's move this back. Number 1, the Yemenis do fart well. Number 2, Sharifa does make pastries at the shop. They are positive at the moment. I need you to make them negative. So what I want you to do, write the negative version of these sentences on your piece of paper. Pause the video and do that quickly. All right. You should have done that and unpaused the video. And the answers will be the negative form. The Yemenis don't fart well. And number 2, the positive sentence, Sharifa does make pastries at the shop. If you did it correctly, you should have written Sharifa doesn't make pastries at this shop. That is all you have to do to change a sentence from positive to negative. Right. Now, to change the sentence from the present tense into the past tense, all we do is we change do or does to did. So let us go back here. Here, the sentence is in the present tense. I want to make it past tense. So by change it from did to didn't. All right, so if we change don't, which is the present tense, to the past tense, it goes to didn't. So if I say you don't love fast cars, that means now you don't love fast cars. If I say you didn't love fast cars, that means in the past you didn't love fast cars. If I say Ahmed doesn't enjoy playing golf, that means today he doesn't enjoy playing golf. But if I change it to didn't, that means in the past Ahmed never used to enjoy playing golf. All right, now very simple. When we change from the present tense to the past tense, all we do is change do or does into did. And I've done the first 3. Once again, on your piece of paper, these 2 sentences, the Yemenis don't fart well, or Sharifa doesn't make pastries at this shop, are in the present tense. I want you to pause the video and on your piece of paper, I want you to change those two present tense sentences into the past tense. Okay, so these two sentences, which are in the present tense at the moment, the Yemenis don't fight well, Sharifa doesn't make pastries at the shop, on your piece of paper, change them from the present tense into the past tense. All right, pause the video and do that quickly. All right, you should have done it and you should have unpaused the video. And if you did it correctly, instead of the Yemenis don't fight well, which is present tense, we make it past tense. The Yemenis didn't fight well. Instead of Sharifa doesn't make pastries at the shop, which is the present tense, it is happening now, we make it past tense and it becomes Sharifa didn't make pastries at this shop. Now, currently, these are negative sentences. The Yemenis didn't fight well. If I want to make it the positive past tense, I just make it did. The Yemenis did fight well. Sharifa didn't make pastries at the shop. It is the negative past tense. If we want to make it into positive, all we have to do is get rid of the NT, and now it is a positive sentence. Sharifa did make pastries at this shop. Okay, that more or less covers statements using the verb to do as an auxiliary verb. Now, if you want to change the statement into a question, remember our first statement was, I do like chocolate. We changed it from a statement to a yes-no question very easily. All we did is that we took the first word I and we put it second. We put the second word do in front, and now it has gone from being a statement to a question. By changing the word order, we make it a question. So the question then becomes, do I like chocolate? Again, if you need to change Ahmed enjoys playing golf, and that is a statement. If we want to change it to a question, Ahmed does enjoy playing golf. All we need to do is we swap the does, and that goes first, and the Ahmed comes second. So it becomes a question. Does Ahmed enjoy playing golf? So the statement has this word order. Ahmed first, does second. The question has does first and Ahmed second. And because these are now questions, instead of the full stop at the end, you have a question mark at the end to show that it is now a question. All right. That is all we need to do to change the question the statement into a question. So, let us go back and have a look. In fact, let us not go back and have a look. Let us try some different examples. On your piece of paper, let us take two sentences. We have two statements here. Feroza does go to mosque every day. Inaz does drive to work herself. I want you to write those sentences on your piece of paper as statements. Change these statements into questions on your piece of paper. Okay, we have these two sentences here. Feroza does go to mosque every day. Sentence number 2. Inaz does drive to work herself. Please pause the video, and on your piece of paper, I need you to change those two sentences into questions. All right, you should have paused the video. So let us go through this quickly. Remember what we said? All you have to do to change it from a statement into a question is you change the order of the first two words. And then you put a question mark at the end because it is now a question. All right, so where this word does came second in the statement, in the question, it comes first. Where this word Feroza came first in the statement, in the question, it comes second. And where we had a full stop at the end, we now have a question. So you must have a question mark. So your answer should read, does Feroza go to mosque every day? And your answer should have a question mark at the end. All right. Number 2. Our answer should be, does Inaz drive to work herself? Now, again, it's very simple. Where Inaz was in the first place in the statement, in the question, Inaz goes to the second place. And where does is in the second place in the statement, in your question, it then goes to the first place. And because this is a question, you now have a question mark at the end. So that is how you change the statement into a question. So those should be your answers. Does Feroza go to mosque every day? Does Inaz drive to work herself? Okay, let us carry on. The next auxiliary verb we are covering is the verb to be. And in the present tense, it conjugates like this. I am, you are, he is, or she is, or it is. We are and they are. If you don't know exactly how it conjugates in the present tense, these are the forms of the verb to be in the present tense. In the past simple tense, the forms change as follows, and it is I was, you were, he, she, or it was, we were, and they were. All right. So in the past simple tense, it is was, were, and was. Okay. They have changed from these forms of the present tense. Very simple. If you're not 100% sure, or you weren't 100% sure, there they are in table form. Now, when we take the present tense of the verb to be, which is am, is, or are, and we add the present participle of the verb, and the present participle is the base form of the verb plus ing, then the tense that we make is called the present continuous tense. Okay. The present continuous tense is made as follows. The subject are, the present tense of the verb to be, so if the subject is are, then the present tense must be am. The participle, which is the base verb eat, plus ing, I am eating my breakfast. If we say you, because it is you, we would take are as the form of the verb to be. We have the participle, the base verb speak, and then we add ing, and it becomes the participle speaking. You are speaking too quickly. If we say she is our subject, then she has to take the form is from the present tense in the current of the verb to be, and then we take the participle, which is formed from the verb drive plus ing. She is driving very well. Now, when we speak of a continuous tense, a continuous tense is a tense where the action of the verb continues for some time. It doesn't just start and stop quickly. So when we say she is driving very well, she doesn't just get in the car, drive for 3 seconds and stop. She is driving a long time. When I say he is drifting across the road, it doesn't just happen in 1 second he drifted across the road. It takes some time. When an action happens over a fairly long time, we use the continuous tense. And the way we form the continuous tense is with a form of the verb to be plus the participle. Okay. When we use the past tense of the verb to be plus the present participle of the verb, again, that is the base form of the verb, plus ing, we are then making the past continuous tense. Okay. So, Again, you will have your subject, and when the subject is I, the form must be was. If the subject is you or they or we in the past, the form of the verb to be would be were. If the subject is he or she or it in the past, the form of the verb to be would be was. Again, we are using the present participle of the verb, of the main verb, and the present participle again is made up of the base verb plus ing. Okay, so we can say I was eating my breakfast, they were playing football, he was drifting across the road, she was driving very well. But changing these forms of the verb to be into the past tense from the present tense here, we form the past continuous tense as opposed to the present continuous tense. Right. Again, if you want to make it negative, all you have to do is add in nt. So if this positive statement was I was eating my breakfast, then we make it negative by saying I wasn't eating my breakfast. If the positive statement was you were speaking too quickly, very simply, I want to make it negative. All I do is put an nt and it becomes you weren't speaking too quickly. So that is a very simple way to change from positive to negative. All right, if I have the positive sentence, she was driving very well, again, I can make it negative and I can say she wasn't driving very well. All you do, add an nt to make it change from positive to negative. Okay, you add an nt to make the sentence change from the positive to the negative form. Now, using the present and past continuous tenses to make yes and no questions. Again, if we have the statement, I am studying English, I was snoring loudly, he is eating snails for breakfast. All we have to do is change these blocks. So, I am studying English becomes, am I studying English? I was snoring loudly becomes, was I snoring loudly? Becomes a question. And because it is now a question, you put a question mark at the end. He is eating snails for breakfast. If you want to make it a question, is he eating snails for breakfast? And again, we put a question mark. If we have a statement, she was driving to Tabuk, and you want to make it the question, all you say is, was she driving to Tabuk? And again, you change the full stop to a question mark. We are dancing well. Are we dancing well? You're not sure? Again, the statement becomes a question, so we have to have a question mark at the end. They were playing football. If you want to change to a question, were they playing football? If you aren't sure. And all that happens is that we change the order of the first two words so that the verb to be now comes first, and instead of the verb to be in the second block, we put the subject in the second block. Very simple. You change a statement into a question by swapping the words in the second block with the words in the first block. Just as we did it with the verb to do, you do the same thing to the word order with the verb to be. All right, the last auxiliary verb we must cover today is the verb to have. In the present tense, the verb to have conjugates as follows. I have, you have, but he, she, or it has. We have and they have. So remember, there are only those two forms, have and has, and he, she, and it take the has form. Every other subject pronoun takes the have form. I, you, we, they all take the have form of the verb. So it's pretty easy. Just remember has for he, she, and it, and all the rest I have, you have, we have, and they have. Okay. Usually you will find that on most English verbs, the he, she, and it form in the present tense is different from all the other pronoun forms. Okay, we use the present tense of the verb to have and the past participle of the main verb to make the present perfect tense of the main verb. So this is how you use have as an auxiliary verb. Let us show you how. I have eaten is the past participle of the verb to eat, and we say I have eaten my lunch. You have seen is the past participle of the verb to see. You have seen her new dress. He, she, or it has walked for 3 miles. Walked is the past participle of the verb to walk. We have been to Durban. Been is the past participle of the verb to be. They have made a cake for her birthday, and made is the past participle of the verb to make. All right, so this is how we use that verb to have as an auxiliary verb. Remember, he, she, or it will take the has form. All the others will take the have form. And then the main verb will go into the past participle form. And when we have done that, that construction is the present perfect tense. Okay. Again, it is very easy to make this negative. If you want to make it negative, the positive statement is I have eaten my lunch. I haven't eaten my lunch. If the positive statement, she has walked for 3 miles, you make it negative. by stating she hasn't walked for 3 miles. Now, if you wanted to make it a question, you would do the same as you did with the other two verbs. So, if our statement is, you have seen her new dress, that is a statement. I can make it a question by saying, have you seen her new dress? If I want to say, they have made a cake for her birthday, and I want to make that a question, I can say, have they made a cake for her birthday? And if I want to make it a negative question, I can say, haven't they made a cake for her birthday? And again, if we turn it into a question, then we must use a question mark. But again, it is very simple to make a question. All you do is you change the first and the second word. All right. Now, the next section we have to do is on page 20, and it is about contracting auxiliary verbs. And if you look on the page, it should say contractions with auxiliary verbs. Now remember what I said to you? Contraction equals the short form. All right. So, if we look at formal contractions of the verb to do, do not goes to don't, does not goes to doesn't, did not goes to didn't. If we look at informal contractions of do, and informal contractions mean those contractions which we only use in spoken English, not in written form. How did he leave is the long form, and it contracts to how'd he leave. What does he do there is the long form, and it contracts to what's he do there. Contractions of the verb to be. The long form, I am eating. The I am contracts to am. So I am eating becomes I'm eating. I am not eating either becomes, I am not eating then becomes I'm not eating. If I say you are eating, the you are, which is the long form, can become you're eating. If I say you are not eating, I can either say you're not eating, or I can say you aren't eating. If I use the long form, he is eating, it contracts to he's eating. If I say he is not eating, I can either contract it to he's not eating, or I can contract it to he isn't eating. If I say Ahmed is eating, it becomes Ahmed's eating. If I say Ahmed is not eating, it becomes Ahmed's not eating. Or it becomes Ahmed isn't eating. If I say we are eating, it becomes we're eating. If I say we are not eating, it can either become we are not eating or we aren't eating. If I say they are eating, it goes to they're eating. But if it is they are not eating, it goes to they're not eating or they aren't eating. All the negative contractions have two forms. The positive contraction only has the one form. But when it is the negative form, such as we are not eating, you can contract it two ways. We are not eating can either become we're not eating or we aren't eating. If you have the negative form, Ahmed is not eating, it can be contracted two ways. Ahmed's not eating, or we can say Ahmed isn't eating. On all our negative forms, there are these two possibilities when you contract them. The only negative form that has one possibility, I am not eating, becomes I'm not eating. There's no second form of the negative for I am not. But for you, for he, for Ahmed, for we, and for they, you can contract the negative form two different ways. You can either say they're not eating or they aren't eating. Either way is correct. Now, the past tense contracts more simply. I was not eating becomes I wasn't eating. You were not eating becomes you weren't eating. He was not eating becomes he wasn't eating. So basically, all our contracted forms here must either be a wasn't or a weren't. So in the past tense, our contractions are very much simpler. All right, and lastly, our contractions of the verb to have. I have bought a new car. I've bought a new car. I have not bought a new car. I haven't bought a new car. So you either contract in the positive to a VE, or you contract in the negative to a haven't. And where we have the he, she, or its forms, has not contracts to hasn't, and has contracts to the apostrophe S. Very simply, he has bought a new car, he's bought a new car. She has not bought a new car, she hasn't bought a new car. So those are the forms of contraction for the verb to have, the formal contractions. Okay, that basically brings us to the end of the lesson today. And for our homework, we need to have a look again on page 20. Okay, homework is page 20 and it is exercise B. Sorry, it should be exercise A. I beg your pardon. Questions with auxiliary verbs, page 20, exercise A. And it is this exercise here. All right. What I need you to do is take your pen in hand. I am going to read the contracted version of the verbs, and I need you to put the long form, okay, the full form. All right, so I will read and I will say, All right. I won't read it. I'm going to play it. And I hope it does play over the recording well enough. You will hear the long form. Okay. You will hear whose, and you're getting that abbreviated form, and they want you to put your answer, which will be the long form. So whose, the long form of whose is. Where'd, the long form of where'd is did. So they need you to go through all 7 answers on the page, 1 to 7, and they are going to want you to put the long form, the full form. Okay, let us see if it comes out clearly enough.
Unit 1. Pronunciation. Activity A. 1. Who's your favorite author? 2.
Where'd you go on your last vacation?
3. Mary's going to the store. 4.
Jack's gone already.
5. We've usually eaten by 6 o'clock. 6.
What'd you do after class yesterday?
7. The girls have been here before.
All right, just in case you didn't hear it clearly the first time from their recording, I'm going to read it a second time. And as I say, I will give you the short form, and we want you to write in the long form. So, who's your favorite author? Where'd you go on your last vacation? Mary's going to the store. Jack's gone already. We've usually eaten by 6 o'clock. What did you do after class yesterday? The girls have been here before. Okay. All we need you to do is write the long form in those 7 missing parts. The first answer will be is, the second answer will be did, and from there I need you to complete the rest. When you have completed all 7 answers, I need you to take a photograph of page 20. Okay, so firstly complete all 7 answers, then take a photograph of page 20 and send that photograph as an attachment on an email headed homework. All right, you must send that email to your normal speaking teacher. So, fill in the 7 answers here, take a photograph of your 7 answers, and then attach that photograph to an email, head the email homework, and send that email to your speaking teacher. Thank you, gentlemen, and that will be all for this video.